Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a few months ago, we had the distinct honor of having our former colleague and now our president, Barack Obama, come to this General Assembly and address this chamber. And at that time, if you may recall, just a few short months ago, he spoke of creating a new politics, one in which entrenched partisan and economic interests would be replaced by a system in which the people have more of a say in the direction that their government takes. And one of his specific proposals was to take the power of drawing legislative districts out of the hands of politicians who have every reason to game the system for their own benefit. Both parties agree that we need structural reform in Illinois in order to move our state forward. Now, we may not agree on all the structural reforms that have been proposed by either side of the aisle, but this is one such reform that defies partisan barriers. By changing the map-making process in Illinois to an independent system, we can create a better and more honorable politics. And I have taken what I believe to be the best parts of their proposals, along with the best practices from other states that have adopted redistricting reform, into this amendment. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Chair recognizes Representative Sandek.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the sponsor yield for some questions?
The sponsor will yield.
Thank you. Jack, we had a brief conversation, I think second reading, and I just want you to compare and contrast, if you will, the Citizens Initiative, which I think we saw last week was filed, and it had, I think, 560,000 signatures, which culminated in about a years-long journey because, frankly, this body didn't do it. So what makes your bill or your constitutional amendment proposal better than the Citizens Initiative, which has taken a year to kind of unfold itself, reveal itself, and looks like get on the ballot?
I appreciate that question. It's a valid question and one that needs to be discussed. And let me preface my comments by saying I do support the independent maps movement as well. I'm not convinced, however, that theirs will get on the ballot for a number of reasons, mostly constitutional, which we don't have to debate now. But I also believe that after reflection, and I had seen what they had done and taken part of what they had put together, and ours is better. And I can tell you that Common Cause says that our initiative provides a promising path forward for ending the unfair manipulation of legislative and representative districts in Illinois. It praises the bill. It says because of the independent commission is tasked with drawing competitive districts that provide neither party with a distinct advantage. So ours is well thought out. But if you're asking for the nuts and bolt differences, I can tell you how we differ in a number of significant ways. Our bill, our constitutional amendment, prioritizes the creation of districts that allow racial and language minorities in an opportunity to elect their preferred candidate, or at least substantially influence the election. This is really helps empower minorities.
Excuse me. Members, we have a very important debate going on. Can we please keep the noise level down in the chamber? Thank you. Representative Franks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It requires the commission to reflect the ethnic, gender, and racial demographics of the state. Importantly, this also removes the General Assembly from the process completely, absolutely completely. It prohibits commissioners from serving in the General Assembly or being appointed to a position subject to Senate confirmation for 10 years. And it also provides for greater transparency. At least 15 meetings, and all meetings open to the public with at least 7 days' notice, and all records and communications open to the public without any attorney-client privilege. Those are the most significant differences.
You're well aware of the effort Independent Maps has undertaken, isn't that right?
Yes, sir. I've supported them.
Okay, so you've known for the better part of a year they were endeavoring to get the citizens' question on the ballot, isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
And did you engage Independent Maps with the drafting of your constitutional amendment, joint resolution Constitutional Amendment 58?
We showed that to them after I had put together the draft.
My question was, did you engage them in the process?
No, because I came up with a different philosophy on how it should go forward, because as I said, I supported them, but my concern was because they were amending more than one article of the Constitution, that I believe that there will be a constitutional challenge.
Well, you know there will be.
Right, but
and it's probably coming from the speaker's
but I'm
lawyer,
also
right?
whoever,
not that good lawyer, but someone else.
Whoever may challenge it,
Right.
I'm saying it may not pass constitutional muster, and I want to
So,
make sure
did
that
you
we
get-
have the best one going forward. Right. Okay. So that's why I wanted to have the best one, and we looked at what other states had done. I looked at what independent maps had done.
Jack, you have to admit there's going to be some skepticism from people about the propriety of your amendment coming in the last days of this session for purposes of getting a constitutional question on the ballot, given what happened in the last version of independent maps and who basically kicked them off the ballot and the challenges that are likely to come. You kind of get it that people all of a sudden see, oh, now the folks in charge want to write something that we've had to endeavor to move forward. Now all of a sudden they want their rules. Don't you? I mean, you understand that skepticism, don't you?
Mr. Sandek, I've never engaged in that type of politics. I don't
wasn't
play.
what I was asking you
I know,
personally.
but the idea is the skepticism, I think, is based on those people who wish to cast aspersions on a clearly superior effort
Well, I
that's
don't think
done in
anyone's
good
casting
faith
aspersions.
for the purpose of protecting the taxpayers.
Wait a minute, but hold on. Folks that moved independent maps forward, they did so out of necessity. This body, including yourself, sir, didn't run to make a constitutional amendment. I will note that there were several filed, none by you, that sat in rules in perpetuity.
Sir, I've
And
done
it
this.
was-
I've done this years before.
Okay, well,
I
hold
was a
on.
strong
Let me get-
proponent of the CON because I wanted to discuss this at the CON, where people on your side of the aisle spent $3.5 million and trotted out Jim Edgar to say, hey, if we have a CON, it's going to cost a lot of money, and we might talk about fair maps, and God forbid. So this is something that isn't new to me. This is something I've been working on for years.
I'm glad, but you didn't have a bill filed until.
I have in the past. I
Okay,
didn't
well,
do it
that's
this
wonderful. But I'm talking about the year that since Independent Maps filed their proposal, Representative Franks, you have not filed anything until last month. Isn't that correct?
After I woke up in a cold sweat and realized that theirs probably wasn't going to make it on the ballot, I took it upon myself to make sure that we protected the voters of this state. Because if I wouldn't have brought this forward, there's a good chance that nothing is going to be on the ballot. And beyond the fact that this is the best one written, it also has the best chance of getting on the ballot.
I think it's going to be on the ballot, and all we're going to do now is maybe have two questions and have a confusing situation in front of us. And that may be part of what's involved here. I would simply suggest everyone's for independent maps on my side, or folks I talk to. The question is, are you with the people or are you with the sponsor?
When I look at your amendment, one of the things that I think is important to notice is the way you put limits on who can be on the commission and how they might serve in the future, right? There's like a 10-year bar either way from having people who would benefit by this process from the ones drawing the maps. Isn't that right?
Correct. And independent maps can't do that.
And speaking of the group that has been doing the petition drive, in the version that they filed for in 2014, it seems to me that is exactly what they wanted, that they actually had that same kind of limitation. Isn't that right?
Exactly, but unfortunately they couldn't do that legally. We're the only ones who can do that legally.
And that's the point I wanted to make, is that one of the strengths of this proposal is they're able to do exactly what the Group for Independent Maps sought to do originally, sought to do in 2014. But because of the restrictions of our Constitution on the petition process, they had to jettison that from their proposal from 2014 to the effort that is filed in 2016. So I think one of the strengths is really that this goes back to what that group in fact did intend. It's just that the limitations of our Constitution prevent that. So I want to thank you for that.
And why is it that we did not include congressional redistricting with this particular amendment proposal?
It was something we considered, but I didn't think it was necessary because once, assuming this passes, we could always, by statute, and put it in to the same commission as we wished. And as you may know, the independent maps didn't have that either.
Right. And the reason for independent maps was because the Supreme Court had not acted in the case involving the state of Arizona, which actually allowed an independent commission to draw congressional maps. So there was an issue with the U.S. Constitution. But again, I respectfully disagree, but again, just to be clear, for the purposes of our legislative intent, we fully intend that we can give to this independent commission the power to do the congressional redistricting.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
What would happen if both passed? The Citizens Amendment made the Constitution, pass the ballot, and then this got passed as well. What?
Well, I think I appreciate the question has not been asked, okay? And I think that's an unlikely scenario. But if they do make it both on the ballot, then the citizens would have a choice of which kind of reform they would like, and it'd be up to the judiciary to decide how it goes. I think in other states, when there's been amendments like this, they've looked at the ones that have gotten the most votes. But it would be our judiciary who would make that determination.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You would prefer?
Yes.
This requires
It requires the
commission to be reflective and also of what the racial and demographic of the whole state is, and it takes into account to provide for the racial minorities and language minorities. This is by far the most protections that we've ever had, and this far exceeds the federal requirements. Far exceeds. This will become the model for the nation.
I hope you're right. Thank you.
We have an opportunity to fundamentally change how we draw our legislative maps and to finally empower the citizens of the state of Illinois. I understand that we're asking you to give up a lot of your power, but the power we're giving up is only to help us, not to help the citizens. The power that we presently have is only done to protect incumbents. It's not about good government. This is about good government. This is about empowering the people to allow them to determine who is going to represent them instead of vice versa. Let's not play political games here. If you really believe that we need to fundamentally change how Illinois politics, many of us who have been here for a while have seen the corruption that seeps throughout very many levels of our government. One of the reasons we have that is because of these districts that we draw. This may be one of the most important votes that we do for the future of our state. Please vote yes for the future of Illinois.
Members, the question is, shall HJRCA 58 pass? All in favor, vote aye. All opposed, vote nay. The voting is open. Have all voted who wish? Have all voted who wish? Have all voted who wish? Mr. Clerk, please take the record. On the count of 105 voting yes, 7 voting no, 0 voting present, HJRCA 58 having received the requisite amount of votes is hereby declared passed.